The ballroom of the Venetian Hotel glittered like something out of a dream Elena Vasquez would never be invited to. Crystal chandeliers refracted light across marble floors so polished she could see her reflection. A tired woman in a gray janitor's uniform pushing a cart of cleaning supplies through a world of designer gowns and $1,000 suits. She'd been working for elite commercial cleaning for 8 months now. Night shifts, mostly. The kind of work where you became invisible to the people who mattered. They looked through you, past you, never quite at you. Which was exactly what Elena needed. Tonight's job was supposed to be simple. Corporate fundraiser, 200 guests, clean the service areas and restrooms throughout the event, stay out of sight. Her supervisor had been explicit. Don't interact with the guests. Don't make eye contact. Don't exist unless someone needs something cleaned immediately. Elena was excellent at not existing. She maneuvered her cart through the service corridor, the muffled sound of a string quartet filtering through the walls. Her shoulders ached from scrubbing bathroom floors earlier, and her feet throbbed in the cheap sneakers she'd bought at a discount store. But the pain was manageable. Everything was manageable compared to 3 years ago. Don't think about it, she told herself. Don't think about Miami, about Marcus, about the bruises that had finally healed but left different scars underneath. She pushed through the service door into the main ballroom, keeping close to the wall. Her job was to check the bar area, make sure water hadn't been spilled, ensure everything remained pristine for guests who wouldn't notice her work unless it wasn't done. The bar stretched along the far wall, bottles arranged like soldiers at attention. 2 bartenders worked efficiently, pouring wine and mixing cocktails. Elena grabbed her cloth and spray bottle, wiping down the brass railing that separated the bar from the main floor. That was when she saw him. He stood 20 feet away, surrounded by men in expensive suits who deferred to him with body language that spoke louder than words. Tall, maybe 6'3", with dark hair graying at the temples and a face that belonged on Roman coins. Sharp features, olive skin, eyes so dark they looked black from this distance. He wore a charcoal suit that probably cost more than she made in 6 months, and he carried himself with the kind of confidence that came from never being told no. Dante Carosi. Elena knew the name because everyone in Chicago knew the name. The Carosi family had run this city's underworld for 3 generations. Restaurants, construction, shipping, legitimate businesses that fronted for everything else. And Dante Carosi, at 42, controlled it all with an iron fist wrapped in Italian silk. She should look away, should focus on her work and remain invisible like she'd been trained. But something made her watch as one of his men. Younger, maybe, 30, wearing a navy suit, approached with 2 glasses of wine, dark red, probably Cabernet. The young man handed 1 glass to Dante, kept the other for himself. If you're enjoying this story so far, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe. Drop a comment telling me where in the world you're watching from. I love hearing from you. Elena started to turn away when movement caught her eye. Another man, older, silver-haired, wearing server's attire but moving wrong. Too purposeful, too focused. He wasn't looking at guests or checking tables. He was watching Dante Carosi with an intensity that made her skin crawl. The man pulled something from his pocket. Small, barely visible. A vial. He moved toward the bar, positioning himself behind where the bartenders were working, and in one fluid motion emptied the vial's contents into a wine glass sitting on the back counter. The same wine glass the young man in the navy suit had just poured from, the same glass now in Dante Carosi's hand. Elena's heart slammed against her ribs. The silver-haired man disappeared into the crowd, and she saw Dante lift the glass toward his lips, still talking to the men around him, completely unaware. She had 3 seconds to decide. Stay invisible. Stay safe. Let whatever happened happen because this wasn't her world, wasn't her problem, and getting involved with people like Dante Carosi was how you ended up dead in an alley, or save him. Her mother's voice echoed in her memory. Mija, we don't let people die when we can prevent it. That's not who we are. Elena moved before rational thought could stop her. She couldn't shout. That would cause panic. Might make him drink faster. Would definitely blow her cover. She couldn't run to him. Security would tackle her before she got close. So she did the only thing she could think of. She stepped into his line of sight, 15 feet away, and mouthed the words as clearly as possible, putting everything into the gesture. Don't drink that! Poison! Dante Carosi's eyes found hers. For a moment, the entire ballroom seemed to suspend. The glass was halfway to his lips, conversation flowing around him, and his dark gaze locked onto this janitor in a gray uniform desperately trying to communicate across an impossible distance. She mouthed it again, slower, adding gesture, pointing at the glass, then shaking her head violently, then drawing her finger across her throat. His hand stopped. The glass hovered, frozen midair. The men around him noticed his attention shifting. They turned to look at her, following his gaze. 6 pairs of eyes suddenly focused on Elena Vasquez, and she felt every instinct screaming at her to run. Dante said something to the man beside him. Navy Suit took the glass from Dante's hand, confusion clear on his face. Dante gestured, and 2 security personnel materialized from the crowd, moving toward Elena with practiced efficiency. This was it. She'd just signed her own death warrant by interfering. In mob business. The security reached her in seconds. Come with us, one said, voice low but brooking no argument. His hand closed around her upper arm, not painful, but absolutely firm. I didn't do anything, Elena whispered, fear flooding her system. I was just... We know. Boss wants to talk to you. Now. They guided her through the crowd, which parted automatically. Elena's heart hammered so hard she thought it might crack her ribs. This was stupid. So incredibly stupid. She should have stayed invisible, should have let nature take its course, should have remembered that heroes died and survivors kept their heads down. They led her into a private room off the main ballroom. Elegant, smaller, clearly meant for VIP conversations away from the crowd. Dante Carosi stood by the window, the wine glass held carefully in one hand. Up close, he was even more imposing, not just physically, but in presence. He filled the space with authority that made her want to shrink into herself. The security personnel positioned themselves by the door. Dante studied her for a long moment, those black eyes cataloging every detail. Her uniform, her scuffed sneakers, the way she held herself rigid with fear. What's your name? His voice was deep, accent coloring the edges despite years in America. Elena Vasquez. Her voice came out steadier than she'd expected. You work for the cleaning company. Yes, sir. And you believe someone poisoned this wine. He lifted the glass slightly. She nodded, throat too tight for words. Why do you think that? Elena forced herself to breathe, to focus. I saw a man, older, maybe 60, silver hair. He was dressed like the catering staff but moving wrong, too focused on you. He had a small vial, and he emptied it into the wine bottle on the back bar. The same bottle She gestured toward where they'd been standing. Your associate poured from. Describe him more specifically. She closed her eyes, pulling up the memory. 5'10", maybe 170 pounds. Silver hair combed back, clean-shaven. He had a scar here. She touched her left eyebrow. Small, maybe half an inch, and his hands shook slightly when he poured the vial. Nervous, or maybe just old. When she opened her eyes, Dante was staring at her with an expression she couldn't read. He pulled out his phone, spoke rapidly in Italian. One of the security men left immediately. You have excellent observational skills for a janitor, Dante said, still watching her. I notice things. It's kept me alive. Something flickered in his eyes at that. Recognition, maybe. understanding. Sit. He gestured to a leather chair. I'd rather stand, sir. It wasn't a request. Elena sat. Dante remained standing, creating an intimidate power dynamic that she suspected was deliberate. The door opened and another man entered. 40s, muscular, with the look of someone who'd done violence and would again without hesitation. Marco, Dante said, take this to Dr. Brennan. I want it analyzed immediately. Full talk screen. Marco took the wine glass with gloved hands and left without speaking. Dante turned back to Elena. If you're wrong, if this is some kind of scheme or distraction, you'll wish you'd never opened your mouth. I'm not wrong. And if you're right, you just saved my life. He moved closer, and Elena fought the urge to shrink back. Which creates a problem. A problem? I don't like owing debts, especially to strangers. He crouched down so they were eye level, and this close she could see flecks of gold in his dark irises. So I need to know who you really are, Elena Vasquez, because janitors don't typically have the kind of observational training you just displayed. They don't stay calm under pressure. And they definitely don't risk their lives to warn mob bosses about poison. Her mouth went dry. I told you. You told me what you want me to believe. Now tell me the truth. His gaze was penetrating, seeing through every defense she'd carefully constructed. Who are you running from? The question hit like a physical blow. Elena's hands clenched in her lap, nails digging into her palms. How did he know? How could he possibly? Your body language, Dante said, reading her confusion. The way you position yourself near exits. How you flinched when my men touched you, even though they weren't being rough. The fact that you notice everything around you like you're constantly expecting threat. And this. He reached out slowly, giving her time to pull away, and gently pushed her sleeve up. The scars were visible even in the dim light. Circular burns, precisely spaced. Old, at least 2 years, but unmistakable. Elena jerked her arm back, pulling her sleeve down. That's none of your business. It is now. The moment you saved my life, everything about you became my business. He stood, walking back to the window. I can have you investigated. By tomorrow morning, I'll know everywhere you've been for the past 5 years. Every address, every job, every traffic ticket. Or you can tell me yourself and save us both time. She wanted to refuse, wanted to walk out of this room and disappear into the Chicago night. But men like Dante Carosi didn't let people just walk away. And if she ran now, he'd find her anyway. His name was Marcus Rivera, Elena heard herself say. We were together for 3 years in Miami. He was... She stopped, the words catching. Controlling. Violent. By the end, I couldn't leave the apartment without his permission. Couldn't talk to friends or family. He monitored everything. Dante listened without interruption, his back to her. The burns happened when I tried to leave the first time. He caught me packing and... Her voice cracked. He wanted to make sure I'd remember what happened when I disobeyed. How did you get away? I pretended to accept it. Became docile, obedient. Waited 8 months until he trusted me again. Then one day when he was at work, I took $300 from his wallet and got on a bus. She swallowed hard. That was 2 years ago. I've been moving ever since. Different cities, different names, always cash jobs where they don't check backgrounds too carefully. Elena Vasquez isn't your real name. No. What is? She hesitated, then figured what was one more secret revealed. Elena Torres. Vasquez was my grandmother's maiden name. Dante turned back to face her. This Marcus. He's still looking for you? I don't know. Probably. Men like him don't like losing their property. The bitterness in her voice was sharp enough to cut. Men like him, Dante repeated softly, need to learn what happens when they damage what isn't theirs to break. The way he said it made Elena's skin prickle. There was promise in those words, threat, and something else. Understanding, born from experience. I don't want revenge, she said quickly. I just want him to never find me. I want to be invisible and safe, and left alone. Unfortunately, Miss Torres, you just made being invisible impossible. Dante pulled out his phone again, scrolling through something. The man you described, silver hair, scar on his eyebrow, nervous hands. That's Sal Benedetto. He worked for my organization 15 years ago before we discovered he was selling information to the Russo family. I let him live because he had 4 children. He looked up at her. Apparently that mercy was misplaced. The Russians must have activated him again, promised him enough money to risk coming back. Will you kill him? Do you care? Elena thought about that. About whether she cared if a man who tried to murder someone else died for it. She found, somewhat disturbingly, that she didn't. No. I care that he tried to kill you, and I prevented it, and now you're going to make my life complicated. Dante almost smiled. Smart woman. Yes, your life is about to become very complicated. He gestured to one of the security men. Vincent, take Miss Torres to the safe house on Lincoln. Standard protection protocols. No one in or out without my explicit approval. Wait. Elena stood. I didn't agree to go anywhere. I have a job. I have an apartment. Your apartment is a 4th-floor walk-up in Rogers Park with locks a child could pick. Your job pays $12 an hour and requires you to work alone in buildings at night where anything could happen. Dante moved closer. As of 20 minutes ago, you saved the life of the head of the Carosi family. That makes you either an asset or a liability, and I don't leave my liabilities unprotected. I'm not your responsibility. Yes, you are. You made yourself my responsibility the moment you chose to warn me instead of staying invisible like you've been training yourself to do. His expression softened fractionally. Miss Torres, there are 3 types of people who poison mob bosses. Rivals seeking advantage, which is the Russos. Traitors within the organization, which Sal represents. And people who want to send a message to everyone else in my world. The moment Sal is questioned, and he will be questioned, he'll reveal what happened, that someone warned me. Security footage will show you. And then, the Russo family will know you're the reason their plan failed. Ice flooded her veins. They'll come after me. Yes, which is why you're going to the safe house until I neutralize the threat. How long will that take? Dante's smile was cold. As long as necessary. The Russos need to understand that attacking me has consequences that extend beyond business. They need an example that makes every other family reconsider their ambitions. Elena sank back into the chair, processing. Her carefully constructed invisibility shattered. Her safety compromised. All because she couldn't walk past someone about to be murdered without trying to help. Her mother would have done the same thing. Would have called it the right choice, worth whatever price came after. I need to get some things from my apartment, Elena said quietly. Clothes, documents, my... She stopped before saying my emergency bag with the cash and fake IDs I've been collecting. Give Vincent a list. He'll retrieve everything you need. I'd rather... Miss Torres. Dante's voice was firm. You don't understand how this works yet. The moment you leave this hotel, you're a target. The Russos have eyes everywhere. They'll know you were pulled aside for conversation. They'll be watching to see where you go. If you walk out of here alone, you won't make it 3 blocks. The matter-of-fact delivery made it worse somehow. He wasn't threatening her. He was stating reality. So I'm a prisoner. You're protected. There's a difference. Is there? She met his eyes. Because from where I'm sitting, it looks like I traded one controlling man for another. Dante's expression hardened. I am nothing like the man who burned you. I don't own you. I don't control you. I'm keeping you alive because you saved my life, and because the threat against you exists because of me. He straightened. You can hate me for it if that makes you feel better. But you're going to the safe house, and you're staying there until the situation is resolved. Elena wanted to argue, wanted to assert her independence and walk out. But she wasn't stupid. Everything he'd said about the Russos was probably true. She'd seen enough violence in Miami to understand how these organizations operated. And if she was honest, bone deep, exhausted from 2 years of running and hiding, part of her was almost relieved to have someone else handle the danger for once. Fine, she said. But I want to know what's happening. No keeping me in the dark. No treating me like I'm too delicate to handle information. If I'm in danger because of this, I deserve to know the details. Agreed. Dante gestured to Vincent. Take her. Lincoln address, full security team, rotating shifts, and Vincent. His voice dropped lower. She's not a prisoner. She's a guest. Treat her accordingly. Vincent nodded. Yes, boss. As Elena stood to leave, Dante spoke again. Miss Torres. Thank you. For the warning. For risking yourself when you had no reason to trust that I'd believe you or protect you afterward. His dark eyes held hers. I won't forget that. And I always repay my debts. She nodded, not trusting her voice, and let Vincent guide her toward the door. The last thing she saw before leaving was Dante Carosi standing by the window, silhouetted against the glittering Chicago skyline, and she had the distinct feeling that her life had just changed in ways she couldn't begin to predict. The safe house wasn't what Elena expected. She'd imagined something sterile and prison-like. Bare walls, basic furniture, the kind of place designed purely for function. Instead, Vincent drove her to a brownstone in Lincoln Park, one of Chicago's most expensive neighborhoods, with tree-lined streets and architectural details that spoke of old money. The building itself was 3 stories, red brick with white trim, flower boxes in the windows that someone actually maintained. Vincent parked in a private garage beneath the structure, and they took an elevator that required a key card to operate. 3rd floor is yours, Vincent explained as they rose. 2nd floor is security operations. Ground floor is entry control and monitoring. No one gets in without going through multiple checkpoints. The elevator opened directly into a spacious apartment. Hardwood floors, exposed brick walls, floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking a small private garden. The furniture was modern but comfortable. A large sectional sofa, a dining table that could seat 6, a kitchen with appliances that looked like they'd never been used. Master bedroom is through there, Vincent pointed. 2 bathrooms, 1 ensuite. Kitchen is fully stocked. If you need anything specific, there's a phone by the bed. Press 1 for security, 2 for food delivery, 3 for medical, 4 connects you directly to the boss. Elena walked slowly through the space, touching surfaces, opening cabinets. Everything was pristine, impersonal. A gilded cage, but a cage nonetheless. The windows are bulletproof, Vincent continued, reinforced with steel mesh between the panes. You can open them for air, but nobody's getting in or out that way. Security cameras cover every approach to the building, but there are none inside the apartment. Boss's orders. You have privacy here. How long have you worked for Dante? Elena asked, still exploring. Vincent hesitated, as if deciding how much to reveal. 12 years. He pulled me out of a bad situation when I was 23. I owe him everything. She turned to look at him. Vincent was early 30s, built like someone who spent serious time in a gym, with kind eyes that didn't match his intimidating frame. What kind of bad situation? The kind where my younger sister was being trafficked by men who thought they were untouchable. Dante found out, shut down their entire operation in 72 hours, got my sister into a real recovery program, gave me a job where I could actually protect people instead of just surviving. He met her gaze. So when I tell you that you're safe here, I mean it. Dante doesn't protect people halfway. Elena absorbed that, adding it to her growing understanding of the man who'd just upended her life. The list of things I need from my apartment. Can wait until morning. It's nearly midnight. You should rest. Vincent moved toward the elevator. There's clothes in the bedroom closet, different sizes. Boss always keeps safe houses prepared. And Miss Torres? He paused at the elevator. For what it's worth, you did a brave thing tonight. Not many people would risk themselves for a stranger. After he left, Elena stood in the center of the apartment processing. 24 hours ago, she'd been invisible. Nobody. A janitor who cleaned up after people who never saw her face. Now she was in a luxury apartment, under the protection of one of Chicago's most dangerous men, because she'd made the split-second decision to save his life. She moved to the bedroom and found Vincent was right. The walk-in closet contained women's clothing in various sizes, still tagged. She grabbed comfortable basics. Yoga pants, a soft t-shirt, underwear. The bathroom had every toiletry imaginable, high-end products that probably cost more than her weekly paycheck. After the longest, hottest shower of her life, Elena climbed into a bed with sheets that felt like silk. The exhaustion hit her all at once, not just from tonight, but from 2 years of running, of cheap motels and cheaper apartments, of always looking over her shoulder. For the first time since Miami, she fell asleep without checking the locks twice and positioning furniture against the door. Morning came with sunlight streaming through windows she'd forgotten to cover. Elena woke disoriented, reaching automatically for the anxiety that usually greeted her. It took several seconds to remember. The ballroom, the poison, Dante Carosi's penetrating stare. She was in his safe house, under his protection, and probably on the Russo family's hit list. The phone by the bed rang, making her jump. She picked it up cautiously. Hello? Miss Torres. Dante's voice, rich even through the phone line. I hope you slept well. I did, actually, better than I have in months. Good. Vincent will bring you breakfast shortly. After you've eaten, I'd like you to give him that list of items you need from your apartment. My people will retrieve them this afternoon. Have you... Elena paused, unsure how to ask. Have you learned anything about the poison? About Sal? Direct questions. I appreciate that. She heard papers shuffling in the background. The wine tested positive for ricin, extremely lethal. Worked slowly enough that I would have appeared to have a heart attack or stroke hours later. Very difficult to trace. Elena's stomach churned. She'd prevented a murder, an actual assassination. Sal is being questioned, Dante continued, voice hardening. He's confirmed that the Russo family contracted him. Apparently they've been planning this for 6 months. My death was supposed to trigger a power vacuum they could exploit. And now? Now they know their plan failed, and they're trying to determine how. Security footage from the hotel is being analyzed. They'll identify you eventually, probably by end of day. Fear spiked through her. So what happens? I'm handling it. The Russos will receive a message this afternoon that makes my position on attempted assassination very clear. And Miss Torres? His tone gentled slightly. I meant what I said last night. You're safe under my protection. No one will touch you. How can you be sure? Because anyone who tries will face consequences that make death look merciful. The matter-of-fact delivery made it more chilling. I'll visit this evening to discuss next steps. Until then, Vincent and his team have orders to give you anything you need. He hung up before she could respond. Breakfast arrived 30 minutes later. Fresh fruit, pastries that were still warm, eggs prepared exactly how she liked them, though she'd never mentioned her preference. Either Dante was extraordinarily thorough, or he'd guessed well. She gave Vincent her list, including the emergency bag she kept hidden in her apartment's air vent. If he was surprised by that detail, he didn't show it. The day stretched long. Elena explored every corner of the apartment, Tested the windows Vincent had mentioned, examined the security features. She found books on built-in shelves, a television with every streaming service, a laptop set up for her use with carefully restricted access, a gilded cage with every amenity except freedom. By late afternoon, Vincent returned with her belongings. Everything from her list, plus things she hadn't asked for. Her coffee mug with the chipped handle, the photo of her mother tucked in her nightstand drawer, even the plant she'd been trying to keep alive on her windowsill. "How did you know about the plant?" Elena asked. Vincent shrugged. "Boss said to bring anything that looked personal or important. Figured you wouldn't have a plant unless you cared about it." After he left, Elena unpacked slowly, creating small, familiar corners in this unfamiliar space. The photo of her mother went on the nightstand, the coffee mug in the kitchen cabinet, the plant by the brightest window. She was arranging her emergency bag's contents: cash, fake IDs, prepaid phones, when she heard the elevator. Too early for dinner, and Vincent always called first. Elena grabbed the small knife she'd transferred from the bag to her pocket and moved toward the living room cautiously. Dante Carosi stepped out of the elevator, and even in the afternoon light, he was imposing. He'd changed from last night's formal wear to dark jeans and a black Henley that showed off a frame built from something more than gym work. This was functional strength, the kind earned through actual physical labor or violence. "Miss Torres." He held up both hands, showing them empty. "I'm not here to threaten you, just to talk." "You couldn't call first?" "I could have, but I wanted to see how you'd react to an unexpected arrival." His eyes tracked to the knife in her hand. "Interesting that your first instinct is defense, not flight." Elena set the knife on the counter, annoyed that he was right. "You're in my space. What did you expect?" "Exactly what you did." He moved into the apartment with an ease that suggested he'd been here before. "Most people in your situation would have hidden or frozen. You armed yourself and assessed the threat. That's survival instinct honed by experience." "Is there a point to this psychological analysis?" Dante almost smiled. "The point is that you're more than you pretend to be. Janitors don't have your observational skills. They don't stay calm under extreme pressure. And they definitely don't keep emergency bags with multiple fake identities." Heat flooded Elena's face. "Vincent told you." "Vincent follows orders. I told him to document everything in your apartment that seemed unusual. 3 fake IDs: Elena Vasquez, Maria Santos, Carmen Rodriguez, $2,000 in cash, prepaid phones, and a bus schedule with routes out of Chicago highlighted." He leaned against the kitchen counter. "You were planning to run again." "I'm always planning to run. That's how you stay alive when monsters know your name." "I'm not a monster, Miss Torres. You've killed people." "Yes. People who deserved it. People who hurt innocence or betrayed trust or threatened what I protect." His dark eyes held hers. "But I don't hurt people who don't deserve it. I don't terrorize women or burn them with cigarettes or trap them in relationships built on fear." The specific reference to her scars made Elena's breath catch. "You investigated me." "Of course I did." Marcus Rivera, 34, currently living in Tampa. Works in construction, has a record. 2 arrests for domestic violence. Both charges dropped when the victims refused to testify. Before you, there was another woman. Before her, another. Dante's voice was cold now, a pattern of control and abuse that the system failed to stop. "Why do you care?" "Because you saved my life, and I protect what's mine. I'm not yours." "You are now." He said it simply, like stating fact. "The moment you warned me about that poison, you became my responsibility. And I take care of my responsibilities." Elena wanted to argue, but exhaustion was setting in. Emotional exhaustion from fighting, from resisting, from always being on guard. "What do you want from me?" "Right now, I want you to understand your situation clearly." The Russo family knows someone warned me. They've identified you from hotel security footage. As of 4 hours. Ago, there's a contract on your life. $50,000 to anyone who can confirm your death. The number stole her breath. 50,000. More money than she'd seen in her entire life, offered for her murder. But, Dante continued, I've made it equally clear that anyone who touches you answers to me personally. And I've put out word through every channel that matters. Elena Torres is under Carosi protection. Harming her means war with my family. You started a war over me? I prevented one. The Russos know that if anything happens to you, I'll dismantle their organization piece by piece. They're weighing whether your death is worth losing everything. He moved closer. It's not. They'll pull the contract by tomorrow, maybe sooner. But the threat needed to be managed immediately. Elena sank onto the couch, processing. This man she barely knew had essentially declared war to keep her safe. Had put his reputation, his organization, possibly his life on the line for a janitor who'd mouthed a warning across a crowded room. Why? She asked quietly. You could have just hidden me away. Why make such a public statement? Dante sat in the chair across from her, and for the first time, she saw something other than cold authority in his expression, something almost vulnerable. Because 15 years ago, someone tried to kill my father. A server at a restaurant we frequented noticed the poison, just like you did. She tried to warn him, but she was too scared to be direct about it. Just kept hovering, knocking things over, creating distractions. He paused. My father got annoyed and had her removed from the restaurant. He drank the poisoned wine and died 3 hours later. Understanding crashed over Elena. And you've wondered ever since what would have happened if she'd been braver, if she'd risked more. Or if we'd listened better. If we'd been less arrogant, less dismissive of someone we saw as beneath us. His jaw tightened. You were brave, Miss Torres. You risked yourself when you had no reason to trust that I'd believe you. You could have stayed invisible, let me die, and disappeared into your carefully constructed anonymity. But you didn't. So this is about your father. This is about honor. About recognizing when someone saves your life and responding appropriately. He leaned forward, elbows on his knees. You're going to stay here until the threat is completely neutralized. That might be a week, might be a month. During that time, you'll have everything you need. But I understand that staying in one place goes against every instinct you've developed. You have no idea, Elena muttered. Then help me understand. Tell me what you need to feel safe here instead of trapped. The question surprised her. Men like Marcus never asked what she needed. They told her what she'd accept and punished resistance. But Dante was asking, genuinely seeming to want to know. Information, she said after a moment. I need to know what's happening, not vague assurances that you're handling it, but actual details about the threat level, about what you're doing, about when I might be able to leave. Done. What else? Purpose. I can't just sit here day after day with nothing to do. I'll go insane. Dante considered that. What kind of work did you do before you started running? I was in nursing school. 2 years completed before... She stopped. Before everything fell apart. Medical knowledge? That's useful. He pulled out his phone, typing quickly. I have a doctor who does regular checkups on my people. Many of them avoid hospitals for obvious reasons. Would you be willing to assist her? Basic care, wound treatment, that kind of thing? Elena blinked, surprised. You're offering me a job? I'm offering you purpose, and yes, I'll pay you for it. Properly, not the $12 an hour you were getting for cleaning toilets. He stood. Think about it. Dr. Reyes will be here tomorrow morning regardless. I want her to check you over. Make sure you're healthy after the stress of the past 24 hours. He moved toward the elevator, then paused. Miss Torres, one more thing. Your emergency bag, the fake IDs, the cash, the escape routes. Keep them. I'm not taking away your ability to protect yourself if you don't trust me, but I hope eventually you'll realize you don't need them anymore. After he left, Elena sat in the expensive apartment, surrounded by luxury she'd never imagined having, under the protection of a man who killed people but had just offered her a job in nursing. Her life had become surreal, but for the first time in 2 years, she didn't feel the constant crushing weight of fear. Didn't feel like she had to plan her next escape route before falling asleep. Maybe, just maybe, Dante Carosi was different from Marcus Rivera in ways that mattered. She picked up her phone and texted the number Vincent had programmed. "Tell your boss I'll help his doctor. And thank you. For everything." The response came within seconds. "You don't thank me for what should be basic human decency." "Sleep well, Miss Torres. You're safe." And somehow, against all logic and experience, Elena believed him. Dr. Isabella Reyes arrived at 9 the next morning, a woman in her late 50s with silver-streaked dark hair, warm brown eyes, and the kind of competent energy that immediately put Elena at ease. "So you're the woman who saved Dante's life," Isabella said, setting down a large medical bag. "He's told me all about you." "I'm sure he has." Elena tried not to sound bitter about having her privacy invaded. Isabella laughed. "Don't worry, he's actually been restrained by his standards. Usually he'd know everything down to your shoe size and favorite breakfast cereal. The fact that he's letting you maintain some mystery is significant." "How long have you worked for him?" 20 years. I was his father's doctor first, then transitioned to Dante when—" She paused delicately. "When his father passed. Now I handle medical care for his entire organization. It's interesting work, to say the least." Over the next hour, Isabella conducted a thorough examination. Blood pressure, heart rate, basic blood work. She asked questions about Elena's medical history, her nursing education, what had made her stop pursuing it. "Life got complicated," Elena said, the usual evasion. "Life with Marcus Rivera got dangerous," Isabella corrected gently. "Dante told me, I've treated too many women with his signature, the precision burns, the carefully placed bruises that don't show in normal clothing. Men like him are predators." Elena's throat tightened. "He's in Tampa now. Far away from me." "Is he?" Isabella packed away her instruments. "Or is he just the reason you've been running, and Tampa is simply where he ended up?" The distinction hit hard. Marcus was in Tampa, yes, but he lived in Elena's head, in her constant vigilance, in every relationship she avoided and every connection she refused to make. "The physical exam looks good," Isabella continued. "You're underweight, probably from stress and inconsistent meals. Your blood pressure is slightly elevated, but that's to be expected given recent events. Overall, you're healthy." She paused. "But trauma isn't just physical, Elena. May I call you Elena?" "Of course. I have a friend who specializes in trauma therapy. She works with many people in situations like yours. People who've escaped dangerous relationships and are trying to rebuild. Would you be willing to talk to her?" "I can't afford therapy." Isabella smiled. "Dante's covering all your medical care. Consider it part of the protective services package." "He doesn't need to. He wants to. There's a difference." Isabella pulled out a card. "This is Dr. Sarah Chen. She's excellent, and she's discreet. Many of her clients have complicated lives that require confidentiality. Just think about it." After Isabella left, Elena stared at the card for a long time. Therapy meant digging into things she'd buried, meant confronting memories she'd spent 2 years trying to forget. But maybe that was the point. Maybe running from Marcus meant more than just physical distance. Maybe it meant actually healing instead of just surviving. She tucked the card into her wallet and decided to think about it later. The afternoon brought unexpected company. Vincent appeared with a young woman, maybe 19, with bright pink hair and more piercings than Elena could count. "This is Sophia," Vincent said, "boss's niece and our tech specialist. She's here to set you up with secure communication." Sophia grinned, dropping a bag full of equipment on the dining table. "Uncle Dante says you're going stir-crazy already," which, fair. "So, I'm setting you up with encrypted internet, a secure phone that can't be traced, and access to our private server where you can binge literally anything ever filmed. Your uncle is very thorough." "He's terrified, actually," Sophia said, pulling out a sleek laptop. "I haven't seen him this rattled since Aunt Maria died. You really got under his skin." "I just warned him about poison." "You gave him something he's been missing for years. Someone who acted without expecting payment or favor. Someone genuine in a world of people who want something from him." Sophia's fingers flew across the keyboard, typing code faster than Elena could follow. "He doesn't trust easily, but when he does, it's absolute. And he trusts you. He doesn't even know me. He knows you risked yourself for a stranger. That's all he needs to know." Sophia looked up, her expression serious despite the playful aesthetic. "Look, my uncle can be intense. Controlling even, though he'd hate hearing that word. But it comes from caring too much, not too little. He lost his father to poison, lost my aunt to a car accident when someone was trying to kill him. He lives with survivor's guilt that would crush most people. So I'm what? His redemption arc? Maybe. Or maybe you're just someone he wants to protect because you deserve it." Sophia returned to her typing. "Either way, you could do worse than having Dante Carosi in your corner." The secure phone Sophia provided was a revelation. Elena spent the evening researching what had happened at the Venetian Hotel. News reports described a minor disturbance at a corporate fundraiser, with no mention of poison or attempted murder. The Carosi family's control over information flow was impressive and terrifying. She also researched Dante himself. Found business profiles that described legitimate enterprises, restaurants, construction, import, export. Found carefully worded articles that hinted at alleged organized crime connections without making specific accusations, and she found an obituary from 15 years ago. Giuseppe Carosi, aged 58, beloved father and community leader. Survived by son Dante and daughter Angela. The photo showed a man who looked like an older version of Dante, with the same intense eyes and strong features. Elena was reading about Dante's deceased wife, Maria Carosi, killed in a car accident 7 years ago, when the elevator opened and the man himself appeared. "You're researching me," he observed, seeing her laptop screen. "You investigated me. Seems fair." He smiled slightly. "True. May I?" He gestured to the couch. Elena closed the laptop. "It's your apartment. It's your space for now." He sat, maintaining respectful distance. "I came to update you on the situation. The Russo family has officially withdrawn the contract on your life. They've also agreed to reparations and territorial concessions. The conflict is resolved." Relief flooded through her. "So I'm safe?" "From them, yes. From Marcus Rivera." Dante's expression hardened. "That's a different conversation." Elena's stomach dropped. "What about Marcus?" "My people did a thorough background check after I learned his name. He's been looking for you, Miss Torres. Actively, obsessively. He's worked with private investigators, tracked every woman matching your description in 6 states." Dante pulled out his phone, showing her a document. 3 months ago, he got close, found a woman using the name Maria Santos working in Milwaukee, drove up there to confirm. "That was me," Elena whispered. "I left Milwaukee the day before he arrived. Saw someone watching my apartment and just ran. Good instincts. Because Marcus Rivera doesn't want closure, Miss Torres. He wants possession. And he's still looking. So what do I do? Keep running forever? Or, Dante said carefully, we resolve the Marcus problem permanently. The way he said it made Elena's blood run cold. You mean kill him? I mean ensure he never threatens you again. How that happens depends on what you're comfortable with. Elena stood, pacing. The offer hung between them. Permanent safety purchased with violence. Everything she'd been raised to believe said murder was wrong, but everything she'd survived said monsters like Marcus kept hunting until someone stopped them. I need to think about it, she said finally. Take all the time you need. But Elena, he stood as well, using her first name for the first time without prompting. You don't have to run anymore. That's what I'm offering you. Not just protection from the Russos, but actual freedom. A life where you can use your real name, finish your nursing degree, build something permanent instead of constantly preparing to abandon everything. And what do you get from this arrangement? He moved closer, close enough that she could see gold flecks in his dark eyes. Peace of mind, knowing that someone who saved my life isn't spending hers looking over her shoulder. That's all? For now. His gaze held hers. Eventually, I'd like to know you better. Not the woman who's been running for 2 years, but the real Elena Torres. The one who went to nursing school and loved it, who has favorite books and strong coffee preferences, who's brave enough to warn strangers about danger, but won't accept basic kindness without suspicion. Her heart hammered against her ribs. I don't know how to be that person anymore. Then learn. Here, where it's safe. Where you have time to remember who you were before Marcus convinced you that you were nothing. The vulnerability in his voice cracked something open in her chest. This dangerous man, this killer, was offering her something Marcus never had. Choice. Agency. The freedom to become herself again. Okay, she heard herself say. I'll stay. Not forever, but long enough to figure out what comes next. That's all I'm asking. He moved toward the elevator, then paused. And Elena? For what it's worth, I already see her. The real you, underneath all the armor, and she's extraordinary. He left before she could respond, leaving her alone with a racing heart and the terrifying possibility that maybe, just maybe, she was falling for Dante Carosi. If you're hooked on this story, make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss an upload. Your support means everything and helps me bring you more emotional stories like this one. Part 3. The Reckoning. 3 weeks in the safe house transformed Elena's understanding of captivity. It wasn't imprisonment. It was breathing room. Space to exist without constantly calculating escape routes or sleeping with one eye open. Dr. Sarah Chen, the therapist Isabella had recommended, visited twice weekly. Their sessions were brutal and necessary, excavating trauma Elena had buried under layers of survival instinct. You're describing hypervigilance, Sarah said during their 4th session. Your nervous system is stuck in threat mode. Every unexpected sound, every raised voice, every sudden movement triggers your fight-or-flight response. I know that intellectually, Elena replied, but knowing doesn't make it stop. Recovery isn't linear. Some days you'll feel strong. Others, you'll be right back in that apartment in Miami, terrified and trapped. Sarah leaned forward. The goal isn't to forget what happened. It's to integrate the experience without letting it control you. The work Elena did with Isabella proved equally therapeutic. 3 times a week, people from Dante's organization came to the safe house for medical care. Nothing they wanted hospitals asking questions about. A broken hand that needed setting without paperwork. Knife wounds that required stitches but no police reports. One memorable afternoon, a man with a bullet graze who kept apologizing for bleeding on the expensive carpet. Hazard of the business, he'd said with a rueful smile. Elena cleaned the wound with practiced efficiency, the muscle memory of nursing school returning. Her hands remained steady even as her mind catalogued the violence implied by each injury. "You're good at this," Isabella observed, watching Elena bandage the man's arm. "Natural bedside manner. You put people at ease even while treating painful injuries." "My mother was a nurse," Elena said. "She always said healing required compassion as much as skill." After the patient left, Isabella stayed for coffee. "You miss her. Your mother." "Every day. She died 5 years ago. Cancer." Elena wrapped her hands around the warm mug. "I was with Marcus when it happened. He wouldn't let me go see her those final weeks. Said she'd be fine, that I was being dramatic, that his needs came first." Her voice hardened. "She died alone in a hospice because I was too scared to defy him." "Elena, that wasn't your fault." "Wasn't it? I chose to stay with him. Chose his approval over my mother's comfort." "You chose survival in an impossible situation. That's different from choosing him." Isabella's expression was fierce. "Abuse rewires your brain, makes you believe the abuser's needs matter more than your own, even more than people you love." The conversation haunted Elena for days. She'd spent 2 years running from Marcus, but part of her had never left that apartment where he controlled everything: what she wore, who she spoke to, how she thought about herself. Dante visited most evenings, arriving after his business concluded for the day. They'd fallen into comfortable routines. Dinner together, conversations that ranged from trivial to profound, comfortable silences where words weren't necessary. He never touched her without permission, never crowded her space or made demands. But the awareness between them intensified with each passing day, charged with possibility neither was quite ready to acknowledge. "Tell me about your wife," Elena said one evening. They sat on the couch, careful distance between them, sharing a bottle of wine Dante had brought. "Maria. I found her obituary online." Dante's expression shuddered immediately, but he answered. "We married young. I was 25, she was 23. Arranged by our families initially, but we genuinely loved each other." "How did she die?" "Car accident. Someone ran her off the road on her way home from visiting her sister." His jaw tightened. "It was meant for me. A message from a rival family. But Maria was driving my car that day. Hers was being serviced. They didn't realize their mistake until afterward. I'm so sorry. It's been 7 years. You'd think the guilt would fade, but it doesn't." He took a long drink of wine. "I got her killed by being who I am. Everything I touch, I destroy." "That's not true." "Isn't it? My father died because of my business. Maria died because of my business. And now you're in danger because you saved my life." He looked at her. "I destroy the people I care about, Elena. It's what I do." She moved closer, closing the distance between them. "Your father died because someone poisoned him. Maria died because someone targeted her deliberately. Those aren't consequences of your choices. They're murders committed by evil people. I could have protected them better. You can't control everything, Dante, no matter how much power you have." She took his hand, feeling him tense at the contact. "And I'm not in danger because you're evil. I'm in danger because I chose to warn you, and the people who wanted you dead are angry their plan failed. That's not on you." He turned his hand over, threading his fingers through hers. The gesture was intimate, vulnerable. "You're the first person in 7 years who's made me want to believe that." "Then believe it." They sat like that for a long time, hands joined, something shifting between them that felt significant and terrifying and inevitable. The Marcus problem came to a head 3 weeks and 4 days after Elena arrived at the safe house. Dante appeared in the morning instead of evening, his expression grim. "We need to talk about Rivera." Elena's stomach dropped. "What happened?" "He's in Chicago. Arrived 2 days ago. My people have been tracking him since he crossed into Illinois." Dante pulled out his phone, showing her surveillance photos. Marcus, older than she remembered but unmistakable, walking through O'Hare Airport, getting into a rental car, checking into a motel in Rogers Park, the same neighborhood where Elena's old apartment was located. "He knows I'm here," she whispered. "He knows you were here. He's been questioning your former neighbors, your supervisor at the cleaning company, showing your photo, asking about Maria Santos/Elena Vasquez." Dante's voice was controlled fury. "He's also been asking about me, about whether you're connected to my organization." "How would he know that?" "Security footage from the Venetian leaked. Not my people. Someone in the hotel's IT department sold it to whoever was paying. Marcus has a screenshot of you being escorted away by my men." He showed her another photo, grainy but clear enough to show her face, Vincent's hand on her arm, Dante visible in the background. Terror flooded her system. "He'll think I left him for you. He'll be enraged, obsessed, determined to reclaim what he believes is his." Dante sat beside her, not touching but close. "Which is why we need to handle this now, permanently. I can't have him hunting you forever, Elena. You deserve better than spending your life looking over your shoulder." "What are you suggesting?" "Let me send people to talk to him. Explain very clearly that you're under my protection, and attempting to find you will result in consequences he won't survive." Dante's eyes were hard. "Or, if you prefer a permanent solution, I can ensure he simply disappears. No trace, no questions, no possibility of him ever threatening you again." Elena stood, pacing. Murder. He was offering her murder delivered with clinical efficiency. And the terrifying part was how tempted she felt. How much easier life would be without Marcus's shadow looming over every decision. "I can't ask you to kill someone for me. You're not asking. I'm offering." He stood as well. "Elena, men like Marcus don't stop. They don't accept boundaries or respect restraining orders. They hunt until they reclaim what they think they own, or until someone stops them permanently." "And you've stopped men like him before." "Yes. Many times. It's one of the few aspects of my business I'm genuinely proud of." His expression was fierce. "I've ended men who terrorized women, who trafficked children, who destroyed lives for profit or entertainment. The world is objectively better without them." "But it makes you a murderer." "It makes me someone who removes threats that the legal system can't or won't handle." He moved closer. "I'm not asking you to approve or participate. I'm asking for permission to protect you the only way that actually works with people like Marcus." Elena's hands shook. Every moral principle she'd been raised with screamed that this was wrong, that vigilante justice was still murder, regardless of justification. But she thought about Marcus's, hands around her throat, the cigarette burns, the way he'd isolated her from everyone she loved until her mother died alone, the 2 years she'd spent running, never settling, never building anything permanent because he was always out there, hunting. "If you do this," she said quietly, "I need to know exactly what happens to him. No vague reassurances that he's been handled. I need details." Dante studied her face. "Are you sure?" "Once you know, you can't unknow it." "I'm sure." "Then here's what will happen. My people will pick him up somewhere isolated. He'll be questioned about who he's talked to, what he knows, whether he's told anyone else about finding you. Then he'll be given a choice. Leave Chicago immediately, abandon his search for you permanently, and never speak your name again. Or refuse and face permanent consequences." "And if he refuses?" "Then he disappears. Completely. Body will never be found. His family will file a missing persons report that goes nowhere. Eventually, he becomes another unsolved case." Dante's voice was matter-of-fact. "But Elena, men like Marcus always refuse. Their ego won't allow retreat. So you need to understand. Giving me permission means accepting what comes next." She thought about it for a long time. Thought about the woman she'd been before Marcus, bright and hopeful and unbroken. Thought about the woman she'd become, always running, always afraid. Thought about the woman she wanted to be, someone who finished her nursing degree, who helped people, who built a life instead of just surviving one. That woman couldn't exist while Marcus was still hunting. Do it, Elena said. But Dante, I need to be there when you question him. I need to face him one more time, not as his victim, but as someone he can't hurt anymore. Absolutely not. It's too dangerous. It's necessary. For me. For my healing. She grabbed his arm. I spent 3 years being too terrified to look him in the eye. I need to do this. I need to see him realize he has no power over me anymore. Dante looked like he wanted to argue, but something in her expression stopped him. You stay behind protective measures. You don't get within his reach. And if at any point you want to leave, we leave immediately. Agreed. Then it happens tomorrow night. I'll have my people pick him up tomorrow afternoon, bring him to a secure location. You'll have your confrontation, and then I'll handle the rest. He cupped her face gently. But Elena, once this starts, there's no stopping it. Marcus Rivera won't walk away from this conversation. Are you absolutely certain? She thought about her mother dying alone, about the scars on her arms, about 2 years of running and hiding and never feeling safe. I'm certain. The warehouse in the south side looked abandoned from outside, crumbling brick, broken windows, graffiti covering every surface. But inside, Dante's people had created something efficient and terrifying. The main space was empty, except for a single chair in the center, positioned under a harsh overhead light. Marcus sat in that chair, hands zip-tied behind him, blood trickling from his nose where someone had hit him during capture. Elena watched from behind one-way glass in an adjacent room, Vincent standing guard beside her. Her heart hammered so hard she thought it might crack her ribs. Marcus looked older than she remembered. Lines around his eyes, gray in his dark hair. But his expression was the same, arrogant fury, the look of a man who believed the universe owed him everything. Dante entered the main room with 2 of his men. He moved with predatory grace, circling Marcus slowly. Marcus Rivera, Dante said, voice echoing in the empty space. Do you know who I am? Dante Carosi. Marcus spat blood on the floor. Yeah, I know who you are, and you're making a big fucking mistake grabbing me. I've got people who know where I am. No, you don't. You've been alone since arriving in Chicago, staying in cheap motels, paying cash for everything. No one knows you're here, and no one will miss you. Dante stopped in front of him. But we're not here to discuss your situation. We're here to discuss Elena Torres. Marcus's expression transformed, rage mixing with possessive hunger. That bitch is mine. I don't care whose protection she's hiding behind. Through the glass, Elena flinched. Hearing his voice after 2 years brought everything back. The fear, the helplessness, the crushing weight of his control. She was never yours, Dante said quietly. She was a woman you terrorized into submission. There's a difference. I loved her, took care of her. She had everything she needed. You burned her with cigarettes. You isolated her from her dying mother. You tracked her across 6 states like she was property you'd misplaced. Dante's voice dropped to something dangerous. That's not love, Rivera. That's ownership. And you're about to learn what happens to men who think they can own women. You can't kill me. You've got nothing. No leverage, no backup, no value beyond what I decide to give you. Dante gestured, and one of his men approached with a laptop, showing Marcus something on the screen. That's your apartment in Tampa. Right now, 3 of my people are inside, documenting everything. The photos of Elena you've plastered on your walls, the timeline you've created tracking her movements, the disturbing shrine you've built to your obsession. Marcus's face went white. All of that gets turned over to Tampa police, along with testimony from the women you abused before Elena, the ones you thought had forgotten about you. Dante leaned closer. Or it all disappears, and you walk away? Your choice depends on what you say in the next 5 minutes. What do you want? I want you to see what you've lost. Dante gestured toward the one-way glass. The glass became transparent, and suddenly Marcus was staring directly at Elena. She stood frozen, meeting his eyes for the first time in 2 years. Elena. Her name came out strangled, desperate. Baby, please. I've been looking everywhere for you. I miss you. I love you. Come home. The words that once would have made her crumble now sounded pathetic, empty. The manipulation so transparent she wondered how she'd ever fallen for it. I'm not coming anywhere with you, Elena said, voice steady despite her racing heart. I'm not your baby, your property, or your anything. You destroyed that the first time you hurt me. I never meant to hurt you. You made me so angry sometimes. You knew what you were doing. I knew I was surviving. That's all. She stepped closer to the glass, still protected but visible. You spent 3 years convincing me I was worthless, that no one would want me, that I should be grateful you tolerated me. But you were wrong, Marcus. I'm not worthless. I'm strong enough to have escaped you, smart enough to have stayed hidden for 2 years, and brave enough to stand here now and tell you that you have no power over me anymore. His expression cycled through emotions: rage, disbelief, desperation. You think you're better than me now? Because some mob boss wants to fuck you? I think I'm free of you. That's all that matters. Dante spoke again, voice cold. Last chance, Rivera. You leave Chicago tonight. You stop searching for Elena. You delete every photo, destroy every piece of evidence of your obsession. You live the rest of your miserable life knowing she escaped and you failed. Do that, and you walk out of here. And if I refuse, then you become another unsolved missing persons case. Your family will wonder what happened. Police will investigate briefly, find nothing, and move on. And Elena will finally be free. Dante's eyes were merciless. Choose. Marcus looked at Elena, and she saw the calculation in his expression. Saw him weighing whether he could escape, whether he could find her again, whether submission was worth temporary freedom. I'll never stop looking, he said finally, and Elena's blood ran cold. She's mine. I don't care how long it takes or who I have to go through. She'll always be mine. The words sealed his fate. Dante nodded once, and his men moved. They pulled Marcus from the chair, dragging him toward a back door. His screams echoed through the warehouse, threats, pleading, desperate promises to comply. But it was too late. He'd made his choice. Elena watched until he disappeared from view. Then she turned to Vincent, tears streaming down her face. It's really over? It's over. Boss will make sure of it. Dante appeared in the observation room minutes later. His hands were clean, his expression calm. But Elena knew what had just happened in that warehouse. Knew that Marcus Rivera would never hunt anyone again. Are you all right? He asked quietly. I don't know. I feel... She struggled for words. Relieved. Guilty. Grateful. Terrified. All of it at once. That's normal. You just watch someone die for what they did to you. There's no simple emotion for that. He moved closer but didn't touch her. But Elena, understand this. He chose his fate. I gave him an out, a chance to walk away. He refused because his need to own you was stronger than his survival instinct. That's not on you. I know. Intellectually, I know that. She wiped her eyes. But I also know that a man is dead because of me. A man is dead because of his own choices. Because he terrorized women for years and never faced consequences. Because the system failed to stop him, so someone else had to. Dante's voice was firm. You didn't kill him, Elena. You survived him. There's a difference. She nodded, not trusting her voice. Come on. Let's get you back to the safe house. Tomorrow you'll process this with Dr. Chen. Tonight, you rest. As they left the warehouse, Elena looked back one final time at the building where her nightmare had finally ended. She felt hollow, emptied out, like something essential had been carved away. But underneath the guilt and confusion, she also felt something she hadn't experienced in 5 years. Hope. Marcus was gone. Truly, permanently gone. For the first time since Miami, Elena Torres was actually free. The days following Marcus's death were strange and disorienting. Elena moved through the safe house in a fog, processing what had happened with Dr. Chen's help. You're grieving, Sarah explained during an emergency session. Not for Marcus, for the girl you were before him, for the innocence he stole, for the years you spent running instead of living. I should feel guilty, Elena said. A man is dead. A man who terrorized you is dead. That's different. Sarah leaned forward. Elena, guilt is a normal response, but examine whether it's earned or if it's another form of control Marcus taught you. The belief that you're responsible for male violence directed at you. The conversation helped, but healing wasn't instant. Elena still woke from nightmares, still flinched at sudden sounds, but the quality of her fear had changed. She wasn't afraid of Marcus anymore. She was processing trauma, which was different from active threat. Dante gave her space while remaining available. He visited less frequently, always calling first, never assuming access to her time or space. The careful distance felt both respectful and painful, like he was preparing her for life without him. You can leave whenever you want, he said one evening, a week after Marcus. The threat is neutralized. You're free to go back to your life. What life? Elena asked. I've been running for 2 years. I don't have an apartment, a job, a degree. I have nothing except what I've built here. Then build something new. Finish nursing school. I'll pay for it. Don't argue. Consider it repayment for saving my life. Get your degree. Get licensed. Start over properly. And what about us? The question escaped before she could stop it. Dante went very still. What about us? This, she gestured between them. Whatever this is. These weeks of dinners and conversations and pretending we're not feeling something neither of us knows how to name. Elena, you're trauma bonded to me. That's not the same as genuine feeling. Don't tell me what I'm feeling. Anger spiked through her numbness. I know what trauma bonding looks like. I lived it with Marcus. This isn't that. Then what is it? She stood, moving closer to where he sat. It's recognition. It's seeing someone who's been broken by violence and loss. Someone who carries guilt that isn't theirs to carry. Someone who thinks they destroy everything they touch. She knelt in front of him, forcing eye contact. It's meeting someone who understands what survival costs. And it's terrifying, because I swore I'd never let anyone have power over me again. But Dante, you already do. His hands came up to cup her face, touch gentle despite the tension in his frame. I'm not good for you, Elena. My world is violent, dangerous. I've already gotten you tangled up in things that nearly got you killed. You also saved my life, protected me, gave me the space to heal and the courage to face my demon. She covered his hands with hers. I'm not asking for forever. I'm asking for honest. Are you feeling this too? Or am I imagining it? I'm feeling it, he admitted, voice rough. Have been since the night you mouthed that warning across a crowded ballroom. But Elena, I'm 42 years old, set in my ways, damaged by loss. You deserve someone easier. I don't want easy. I want real. She leaned forward, closing the distance between them. I want you, if you'll have me. Not as a debt to be repaid or an obligation to be protected. As a partner. As someone you choose because you want to, not because you owe me. The kiss happened slowly, deliberately. His lips met hers with a gentleness that spoke of restraint and careful intention. Elena deepened it, pouring 2 years of loneliness and fear and desperate hope into the contact. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, Dante rested his forehead against hers. This changes everything. I know. My life is complicated, dangerous. You'd be signing up for a world most people run from. I'm tired of running. She kissed him again, softer. I want to stay. Here, with you, building something real instead of just surviving. Then stay. His arms wrapped around her, pulling her close. Stay, and let me spend every day proving I'm worth the risk you're taking. They held each other in the quiet apartment, two people broken by violence who'd found unexpected healing in each other's company. Thank you so much for watching until the end. If you loved this story, check out the other videos on your screen now. I think you'll really enjoy them. And don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already. See you in the next story.